What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to become more politically engaged by identifying the problem and telling you exactly what steps we can take to solve it.
Okay, let's start with a little segment called What's Annoying You This Week?
Okay, perfect. I'm glad. And then I know that you have someone/something that's been annoying you this week too. And I am happy to talk about that also. But last week we talked about Roger Stone, one of Trump's longtime BFFs and political advisors. And today I want to talk to you about Bill Barr, who is this corrupt toad who just has blind loyalty to Trump. He is the Attorney General of the United States and the head of the Department of Justice. So his job is to make sure that the laws get administered in a fair and independent way. So for context, remember Barack Obama?
Oh, don't we all remember Barack Obama?
I miss him so much. So the first time that he met with his U.S. attorneys, he told them, and I quote, "I appointed you, but you don't serve me. You serve the American people, and I expect you to act with an independence and integrity." Can you imagine Donald Trump saying something like that? I really miss Barack Obama. But so that's how attorneys general are supposed to act. They're supposed to be independent, nonpartisan. They're not supposed to put their fingers on the scale. So now we have Bill Barr as the Attorney General of the United States, and he's just your typical corrupt, greedy dude. I feel comfortable saying that because he's been sleazy for decades. Maybe I could excuse one shitty thing, but his judgment is just terrible. And it's because he's corrupt. He doesn't understand the difference between right and wrong. He just understands power dynamics, and he doesn't want to get rid of the power that he has. So that's not an ideal quality in a attorney general, to say the least. So Roger Stone, basically what happened with what's going on with Bill Barr in the news right now is that Roger Stone was found guilty of witness tampering, obstructing an official proceeding, and 5 counts of making false statements. And 4 Department of Justice prosecutors, nonpartisan lawyers, recommended 7 to 9 years in jail for him, based on what's in the Constitution and what past similar crimes have ended up giving out in rulings is 7 to 9 years in jail. So Trump saw that and mad that his BFF Roger Stone is finally facing consequences, tweeted "Wow, this is unfair." And then Bill Barr, through the Department of Justice, also recommended a lighter sentence. Weird, huh? So it's not impartial at all. Bill Barr is just doing Donald Trump's bidding, and that is not what the Attorney General is supposed to do. And people are making a big deal about it because it is a really, really big deal. So I know we talked about last week, once Bill Barr stepped in, those 4 career Department of Justice prosecutors resigned. That's because it was an abuse of power for Bill Barr to be doing that. He's supposed to be impartial, and he stepped in on behalf of Trump to get Roger Stone a lighter sentence, and that's just not how this country is supposed to work, you know?
As important as a job as this is, I just don't understand why more people have not been talking about this.
Yeah.
Why are more people not just so angry about this? I don't understand why we're not all fuming.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's a pretty good segue. So the people who understand the importance of it, they are pissed about it. It's just that there's so much going on all the time that I think people don't have the capacity to know what everything that they should be upset about. But the New York City Bar Association sent a letter to Congress today urging them to investigate Attorney General Barr for a pattern of conduct that allegedly threatens public confidence in the fair and impartial administration of justice. So that's a big fucking deal for the New York City Bar Association to say something like that. Plus, thousands of former Department of Justice officials, Republicans and Democrats alike, have called on him to resign because he's not impartial. He is not delivering impartial justice. He's working on behalf of Donald Trump. And the like Republican talking point in response to this is like, well, Bill Barr told Donald Trump not to tweet about this stuff. And it's like, not because he doesn't like, it's like he told you that because he's upset about that because like now the spotlight is shining on him. Like Bill Barr is just trying to do his crimes in peace. And now that Donald Trump has tweeted about it, everybody's paying attention to him. And he's like, hey man, like I would pardon your buddy. Like I would get him a lighter sentence if you would just like, I don't need your tweets to help me along. Like I'm trying to commit crimes over here, but please stop paying attention to me. Like I'm trying to do this in peace. And it's like laughable to think that he's upset that like Trump is trying to do, I don't know, step into the process because like he's the one who's like rigging the scales. He's doing Donald Trump's bidding.
Yikes. Can we impeach this guy?
Yeah, we fucking can, and we should.
Let's do it.
Yeah, good question. So like ideally if he was like a man of honor, he would resign, but obviously he is not that person. He's never going to do that. So the House needs to impeach him. So that would make him the first ever Attorney General to be impeached. But that's what this country needs because we are falling into an authoritarian state. And I don't say that to like, I mean, people should be scared, but like I'm not trying to like, I'm just trying to prepare people for the truth. Like that is what's going on. So there are a lot of different, one of my favorite resources for this is a book called On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. It's like it's really short. It's a quick read, but it just, it explains like all the signs of like the descent into authoritarianism. But I have a list, like it's an authoritarian checklist and it has 10 things on it. And we have reached 8 of the 10. So I think a lot of people think that when people talk about falling into an authoritarian state, they're being like alarmist. But like once you've looked at this checklist and you really understand like what it's saying, like it's not alarmist at all. Like change is incremental and we are slowly moving towards it, towards like being an authoritarian state. So I'm just going to go through this really quickly and like give some examples of like what has and hasn't happened yet, so that everybody can like kind of get an idea. Because as when you're dating, you want to look for patterns of behavior. So, oh my God, be quiet. So, come here.
I love how passionate your cat is about this. She's like, yeah!
She hates dictators. Okay, so the first one is taking sides with a foreign power against domestic opposition. So this one's obvious. Russia is not an ally of ours, and Trump like has a boner for them. He's like in love with them. North Korea too. Like he loves dictators. They are not allies of ours, but like the way that he acts, they are. So all of our domestic intelligence agencies like the CIA and the FBI, they have all come out and said that Russia aided Trump in the 2016 election, and all indicators report that they are aiding him to win the 2020 election because he goes easy on Russia, basically. Like Obama imposed sanctions and Trump has lifted many of those sanctions. So Putin wants Trump to be president. He doesn't want a Democrat to be president. Like Elizabeth Warren would be tough as shit on Putin, and he doesn't want that. So that's number one, taking sides with a foreign power against domestic opposition. He always sides on the like foreign power. Detention of journalists. So that hasn't happened like systematically. We still have a free press in the United States, but like you can see how it's not a far jump to go from fake news and all of the like horrible stuff he says about journalists and how that they're like the enemy of the state and all like that's, yeah, it's alarming.
That's literally a quote from Stalin. Stalin is the one who said the press is the enemy of the people. Like when your president is quoting Joseph Stalin and it's not being ironic, like he's not ironically quoting Stalin, people. This is why we're afraid. This is why we're angry. Oh my God.
Like, okay, so it reminds me, I don't know, I look for patterns a lot now. Like my therapist has like drilled it into me, but it's like so both of us listen to a lot of like true crime stuff. So it's like when a guy is in prison for like sexually assaulting somebody, but he gets like a really light sentence, and then he immediately gets out and then like sexually assaults another woman, and we're like, hey, maybe maybe he should have been punished a little bit more, or like actually face some consequences, because like people who do stuff like that are gonna like do it again. So I don't know. I just see like this pattern. Like Trump obviously has like a disdain for journalists, and that's because their job is to get to the truth. So like he has a pattern of that, and it's like because he doesn't want the truth to come out, he wants it to be hidden. It's why he hasn't released his tax returns. It's why he doesn't release his medical records. It's like transparency is like not this guy's thing, obviously. So speaking of press, the third one is loss of press access to the White House. Do you remember the last time there was a White House briefing, like a press briefing? It's been months, exactly. So there used to be a daily press briefing where like journalists used to be able to talk to the president and like ask questions, figure out what's going on. They just stopped doing those like months and months ago. He does, like they used to do them daily. He does like a couple a year now. And that like enables him to like not be transparent and hide behind things. So, yeah, he's pretty hostile towards the press, and there's been a lot of loss of press access to the White House. 4 is made up charges against those who disagree with the government. Lock her up is like the perfect example of that. Number 5 is use of governmental power to target individual citizens for retribution. Yes, obviously that is going on. He does that all the time. What's a good example? I mean, like even just the Joe Biden, Hunter Biden thing with Burisma, like he's targeting individual citizens for retribution just because Joe Biden is running against him. What else? Number 6, use of a terror incident or an international incident to take away civil liberties. That has not happened yet. But an example of that would be like what's going on with coronavirus in China. So they have more of like an authoritarian state than we do for sure. And because of that, they are able to place like travel restrictions and stuff like on their citizens. So we haven't really seen that here, but like that's an example of another place that it happens. Persecution. Number 7 is persecution of an ethnic or religious minority, either by the administration or its supporters. Build the wall, the Muslim ban, obviously, like there's all kinds of persecution of ethnic minorities. 8 is removal of civil service employees. Yes, he's fired FBI Director James Comey. He's done, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Anybody who disagrees with him is like gonna get kicked out. Alexander Vindman got fired. I don't know. There's retribution against people who disagree with him, which is not how you're supposed to act as president. 9 is use of the presidency to incite popular violence against individuals or organizations. Probably. He like verbally attacks like women in office, mostly women of color. So like he probably is doing that. And then 10 is defying the orders of the courts. But so that's like a yes. Let's see. What's a good example of that? I don't think he's like outright denied the orders of the courts, but like as we can see, the courts are being influenced by political stuff, like with all this stuff that's going on with Bill Barr and all that stuff. So like it's less of a necessity for him to defy the courts because like the courts are doing what he wants. Like they're not getting him in trouble for anything. Like he wasn't impeached. He doesn't need to, like the courts are going along with this like scheme, this like crime spree that the entire government is going on. So those are the 10. We've hit like 8 out of the 10. It's a pretty scary time to be in. And the 2020 general election is kind of like the last real turning point that we have to stop Trump and authoritarianism. And we know that the system is like rigged against Democrats, but that means that we have to work harder, not give up. And we're going to need like huge voter turnout. So last night, we're recording this on Thursday. Last night was the Democratic debate. Any Democratic candidate will stop the bleeding of what's going on right now. But Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders like understand what's at stake the most. So I don't know. It's important to vote in the primaries. We'll talk about the actions that we're going to take a little bit later. But like voting should be the very, very baseline of what we all do. Like democracy is a lifestyle. And I think we all kind of got away from that because we had like a good president who like knew what he was doing. And we were like, great, everything's fine. And that's obviously not the case. Like there is a lot of like bigotry in this country, and Trump is just like a symptom of that. So the actual disease is like corruption and greed and toxic masculinity and the patriarchy. Like basically we just have a government full of Kevins, and we this like secret to being a better country is like rooting out all of the like shitty guys who act like that. So that is what's bothering me this week. What has been bothering you this week? Is there anything in particular?
Yeah. And you know what? It's not surprising that what's bothering me is a Kevin. Only his name is Stephen. He's a Kevin named Stephen Miller. And he was trending on Monday, which is like, what now, man? Because he got married, which means this person who is his wife now, Katie Waldman, did exactly what we told people not to do last week, which was not only did she fuck a Kevin, she has married a Kevin. It's like, man. So, you know, okay, so for people who don't know, Stephen, a.k.a. Kevin Miller, is a senior policy advisor to Trump, along with Jared Kushner and Ivanka, because, you know, that's not
nepotism.
Not cool. Not nepotism at all. Whatever. So he was previously the communications director to Jeff Sessions. So it's not like this dude has, you know, no experience working for really awful
I'm sensing
people.
a pattern.
He was also the press secretary for Michelle Bachmann. So, yeah. So a lot of the things you were actually just talking about with, oh, hey, look, we're scoring 8 out of 10 on an authoritarian regime here. Stephen Miller actually had a pretty strong hand in a lot of those things. So he's been Trump's right-hand man since before the election, actually. Since very early on, he's had his little bug he's been the bug in Trump's ear. He had a lot to do with the travel ban and the reduction of refugees and the separation of migrant families. So, you know, ripping the children away from their parents and putting them all into separate cages. So he's a lying liar who lies. So he's lied about election fraud. He's lied about refugees and their impact on government resources. He's been in charge of writing some of Trump's speeches, which we know are full of lies. He also, like, this girl came out at Maya Angelou. Like, he called her out on racial paranoia, which, I'm sorry, we have a white guy calling out a black woman on racial paranoia? No, stop it. Just stop it. Stop it before you
Can we get some,
start
like, self-awareness maybe for a second?
Right? Like, zero self-awareness. You mentioned James Comey, the FBI director Trump fired. Well, that was Stephen Miller's idea. So, you know, this is nothing new. This guy is just an immigration hypocrite completely, as we learned from his uncle. So some Kevins have uncles like Dr. David Glosser, who actually wrote an essay about how Stephen Miller is an immigration hypocrite. He was like, I know because I'm his uncle. And he talked about how their family is from what's now Belarus. And this guy who is super anti-immigrant and refugee, this guy being Stephen Kevin Miller, you know, is just awful and just all about America first and all, you know, that whole awful rhetoric. And this guy's uncle is like, hey, you and your family, our family has benefited greatly from the way America used to be anyway, the way that I think most Americans are, which is actually very welcoming of immigrants and refugees. You know, but this is just like another example of how people just don't care or even feel anger towards things that are wrong and should be considered just vile ways to treat people, but they just don't care unless it affects them negatively.
Right.
If it doesn't affect them negatively, they really don't care what happens to other people, which is really awful.
But like these are the
so
policies
this guy,
like these policies that you're talking about, like separating children at the border and like the Muslim ban and stuff like that. Like he's the architect of those because he's a white nationalist. Like
he's a white nationalist.
And he like admits it, right? Like he's like borderline proud of it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
he is not ashamed of being a white nationalist. This was the guy who leaked emails to the very unlikable people
oh God.
Who worked for Breitbart News. Like when his emails were leaked, where he was supporting white nationalists and their views and conspiracy organizations like InfoWars. Like, this dude loves Nazis. And when people were like, dude, here's all these leaked emails, he was just like, oh, oops, but, it's fine. They're actually neo-Nazis, not Nazis. So it's okay that I'm one of
exactly.
them.
So people...
What? No.
This guy, like, those are his true colors. Like, that's what he believes. And then, like, those are the results of the policies that he puts in place. And, like, Trump put him in charge of national security, and he was a senior policy advisor, like, because he has these views, not in spite of these views. Like, the point is to create, I don't know, a frenzy, make people afraid. Like, those are all the things that, like, Stephen Miller's goals are, to make people afraid of immigrants and blah, 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 blah. But, like, everything that he's saying is not true. But Trump put him in charge, like, because he's a racist. Like, it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to, and probably anybody listening to this isn't going to agree with the Stephen Millers of the world. But we need to do everything we can to help people understand that these people are liars. They're bad people. They are liars. They are Nazis. They are not good, and they need to go. Now, he's in an appointed position, so, we can't just make him go that easily. But if we vote out Trump, we also vote out this guy who, like, honestly, like, so I just recently watched the live action Aladdin, and Jafar, the bad guy in it, is, like, hypnotizing the Sultan, cute little Sultan man. And Trump is not a cute little old man, but I was just like, oh my gosh, Stephen Miller's Jafar. He's like the right-hand man who's behind all of the bad decisions that this Sultan is making. And I mean, Trump knows what he's doing. He's awful. Like, that is just what makes it worse. But I'm like, Stephen Miller and Jared Kushner and Ivanka, that whole little team there of advisors, they want to be the next rise to power. They have a whole future vision here, and we need to, like, cut it off at its knees, at its roots. Like, we need to make this
because their, like, theory of the case is not, and, like, obviously this is not their quote, but, like, they're not asking what they can do for their country. They're, like, asking what their country can do for them. Like, they're trying to exploit power to, like, make themselves rich, make themselves more powerful, all of that stuff, which is, like, not what you want in a leader, obviously.
Yeah. And when they're challenged, these types of people don't rise to the challenge in a strong way. They are big spoiled babies. I mean, Stephen Miller, back in, like, 2018 or something, had a huge meltdown on CNN. Like, these people are not strong people. They're just rich people who are so used to getting their way, and they usually do, that they just continue to kind of, like, live in that way of, like, of course I'm right. And people are like, oh, yeah, you must be right because you're so sure of it.
We saw that happen last night in the Democratic debate with Mike Bloomberg. Like, he's so arrogant and, like I could have prepared a better answer to his, like, sexism question. Like, man, I didn't even plan to talk about this, and, like, maybe we'll have an entire episode. I mean, we'll have an entire episode about Mike Bloomberg. I hate him. I got notes too. He, like, makes my blood boil, but he has never, it's just, like, obvious that he's had people around him for so long that have just, like, told him he's so great and stuff like that, like, he didn't even prepare for the debate last night. Like, So Elizabeth Warren called him out on all of his like non-disclosure agreements and sexist statements and all of that stuff that he has said in the past. And his answer was not, I'm sorry, not, I hear you, not anything like that. He just said like, well, I hire women. Women are in charge of several of my companies. Like, how could I be sexist if I appoint women to be the CEOs of my companies? And it's like, bruh, what? Like, that is just the stupidest logic I've ever heard. It's very like, it's so archaic. I'm so tired of it. But it's just like saying that Aaron Hernandez didn't murder me, so he couldn't possibly have murdered these other people. It's like, no. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah, or like the whole like I couldn't be racist. I have a black friend. It's like no, that's not how it works.
Yeah. So let's look at the results of your policies and then like see what it says about you, which like if you look at the results of Mike Bloomberg's policies, they're incredibly racist, but I'm sure we will get to that at some other time. Was there anything else you wanted to say about Stephen Miller?
I don't think I need to say anything else about Stephen Miller that hasn't been said because this guy doesn't deserve it. And I've gotten that out there now about how much he's annoyed me this week. And now I can move on with my life into a much more positive outlet.
That's good. I can see in like some of the stats of who listens to this podcast, I think 2/3 of the people who listen are women. But like, don't date people like that. Like, don't fuck people like that. Like, don't let people like that into your life. Like, just because, like, I cannot imagine why you would, but obviously women choose to all the time. And I think it's because of, like, the proximity to power is they're using, like, I don't know. It's just, it's sad, but, like, obviously you got to stop doing that. Can't be letting people like that into your life.
Yeah, and friends don't let friends do that either. You know, if you have a friend who is dating a Stephen Miller or dating a Kevin,
speak up.
Help them see it. Like, speak up, say something, empower them. Like do what you can. Don't take it as far as murder because that might be a little bit too far. But do everything else that you can to break them up. I bet that Victoria F. from The Bachelor would have some fantastic advice on how to break up couples. So if you've got a friend who's dating
or a Victoria F, she's super
Miller,
toxic too. So yeah.
Or a Victoria F. Break them up.
It's got to go. Yes, good. And also, we're not advocating for murder. Okay, well, on like a brighter note, do you want to talk about what kind of actions you're taking this week to, I don't know, flip some swing states or get Bill Barr in trouble or get Stephen Miller in trouble or elect some progressive women or what are you going to do this week?
I thought I just farted. It's
okay.
So bad. Oh my God. Oh God. Oh.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Oh my gosh, it's really bad. And he's dragging his tail and it's like fanning it my way. Oh, you're such a jerk. Okay, so I have been so inspired by Stephen Miller's uncle, Dr. David Glosser. So his wedding gift to the happy new couple was a donation to a refugee advocacy group.
I love it.
So the group that the group he chose to donate to in their name was HIAS. It's a Jewish American nonprofit organization that provides humanitarian aid and assistance to refugees. So I just absolutely love that his uncle was like, you know what? I'm happy for you that you're married, but also like fuck your whole America First rhetoric. Like, let's protect the refugees and welcome the strangers because they built America. And that's what I'm inspired to do is to donate to and just make sure that I'm being an advocate for refugees in my own community. Like, I live in Iowa, and a lot of people forget, I think, that like even here in Iowa, we still have refugees and we need to help them. Like, there are people in my own community, there are people in every community across the United States who are immigrants or refugees who need your help. And there are tens of thousands of more at the borders who desperately also need your help. So I'm going to make sure that I am voting for candidates who have a plan for helping refugees and helping immigrants. And I'm going to make sure that I make donations to any organization in my community. So I really like helping local organizations that are providing assistance to refugees. But there's also some other like national organizations too. So the ACLU Foundation, there's UNICEF USA, Asylum Access, the National Immigration Law Center. There's a lot. So that's what I am doing to make myself feel better about
the state of Stephen Miller's country.
Yeah. And that's how I am celebrating Stephen Miller's nuptials.
Great. Good. I'm sure he'd hate it. So I'm glad.
Yep. Anything that'll make Kevin angry.
Yeah. We're pissing off Kevin's. That's our main goal. Okay. Well, that is good.
What about you? What are you
doing? I made sure to kind of cover some of my bases this week. So I went to votesaveamerica.com to make sure I was still registered to vote because I live in a blue trifecta, which means that there's a Democratic governor and then both state legislatures are Democratic. So there's probably not a lot of voter purging going on here, but I just wanted to make sure. But if you live in states like Arizona or Georgia or swing states especially, it's really important to make sure that you are registered to vote and that you haven't been purged from the rolls. And you can do all of that at votesaveamerica.com. So that was easy. It took a couple minutes. One thing that I haven't done but that I'm going to do, and I hope you guys are inspired to do too, is text resist to 50409 and tell my House rep that I think Bill Barr should be impeached. Obviously, for lots of reasons, his aiding of Donald Trump is one step further towards authoritarianism. So I think a lot of people are alarmed by it right now. You should stay alarmed. You should be alarmed into action, basically. So Nancy Pelosi has not come out in favor of impeaching Bill Barr. She's probably worried that something similar to what happened with President Trump would happen, which is just that it would pass the House and then it would go to the Senate and Mitch McConnell would not allow anybody to any witnesses to testify or any documents to come out, and it wouldn't be it would be a sham investigation, just like it was a sham impeachment with Donald Trump. But it's still the right thing to do. That still matters. The right thing to do is impeach a guy who is corrupt and wrong and whatever. Even though impeachment didn't Trump wasn't removed from office, it was still the right thing to do to impeach him, and it's still the right thing to do here. So my House rep is Dan Lipinski. He sucks, to be honest. I very much doubt that I will get a positive response, but maybe if he gets enough, he'll move that direction. He did vote in favor of impeachment. I had to call his office a lot of times. My mom had to, sorry. I just got a text from Wesleyan's assistant swim coach who told me that my school record in the 200 IM just got broken. Good for her. That's nice. Just by a little bit too. But I think that girl's just a sophomore. So congratulations. Yay. Go Titans. Sorry. Okay. Anyway. So I doubt that Dan Lipinski will do what, I don't know. He never does the right thing. But it did take me and my mom and a bunch of other people from Illinois' 3rd District calling a lot for him to come out in favor of impeachment. And I'm glad that he did. So I'm texting, again, resist to 50409 to tell my House rep that I think Bill Barr should be impeached. I will post a sample on the FYMI pod Instagram if you guys don't want to think of your own letters. I'll do it. And then I had some extra time this week, so I'm getting more comfortable with the vote forward forms. So I wrote, you can either print out 5 letters at a time or 20 letters at a time, and you can pick whatever campaign you want to do. So this week, I forget what she did, but Susan Collins did something that pissed me off. So I was like, I have a free hour. So I printed 20 letters to voters in Maine to get out the vote. So those are going to be sent at the end of October. And then I also tried a new campaign, which is I wrote 20 letters encouraging Arizonans to register to vote. So the first 20 that I wrote were like get out the vote reminders, like here's why I vote, I think you should too, but you don't send those until like a week before the election. The second 20 that I wrote include like the registration form. So there are 2 Arizonans who are not registered to vote. So it's encouraging them to register to vote. It has the registration form in it, and then it also is postage paid by Vote Forward, so they don't have to pay for their postage, so it kind of removes a bunch of barriers. So hopefully that gets some swing state voters registered and getting them out to the polls. So it's nothing like life-changing, but if everybody does a little bit, then it goes a pretty far way.
I love
Yay,
that.
thanks.
Aw, go
Thank you. I'm going to donate $20 to ResistBot because they do like really good work and make it really easy for people to contact their House reps. And for people who hate making phone calls and are like socially anxious like me, it's just way, way easier to contact your rep through ResistBot than it is through like a phone call or anything like that. So that's just how, it doesn't matter how you contact them, just make sure that they're hearing from you, because remember, they work for you. So they're supposed to be representing you in Washington. And if you think Bill Barr should be impeached, then that's what they should advocate for. Aww.
Yeah. They work for you. Yeah, my puppy's being real snuggly. This is not the one that farted, so she gets to snuggle.
She's such a cutie.
Nice neat girl.
That's actually, petting your dogs, spending time with your dogs is probably pretty good self-care, right?
Oh my goodness, you have no idea. I have taken a nap with my dogs 5 days this week, which is all of the days. And it has been so nice. I just come home from work and I get down on my bed and she knows immediately, like, this is what we're doing. And she gets all up in that snuggle, and it's been so nice. The best and most necessary self-care.
Yay. Did you go swimming?
I did not.
Me neither.
Okay. Yay! Yeah, I did not. But, I did put my suit on and wear it around the house a couple times. So that made me feel more comfortable. And right now there's a lot of competitive swim meets happening at the pool. So the hours are limited. And so I'm just going to wait a couple weeks probably when there's better hours there. Or I could go like in the morning, but I know that I won't do that.
Right. Setting realistic goals is important.
Before work, because then I go to work and I still have goggle raccoon eyes, and it takes a lot of planning. And then I have cold, wet hair, and it was like 0 degrees every day. So we're just gonna.
No, I get it. Don't worry, I get it. I
I
understand.
bet you get it more than anyone.
Yeah. Okay. I'm revising my goal also. I'm taking swimming off of my self-care goal. I think I'm going to make it my self-care thing to go lift next week, because that sounds more fun to me than swimming right now. So I'm changing my goal. I failed last week and I'm going to try something new.
Yeah. I'm that's what I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try to do something every day that kind of scares me. Doesn't necessarily have to be swimming. It can be something else. I'm just trying to be more vulnerable in general. So,
Yeah, that's good. Baby steps.
Yeah. I probably need to be more specific about it than just something, because I'm not good at just somethinging. But
well, you can report back next week and let us know what your vulnerability thing was that day.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay, well, self-care, those are good self-care corners. And then I wish I had a more exciting update in terms of wholesome content about my foster cat, but she is still pregnant. So I don't know. Her tummy is so big. I feel like it should be any day now, but she hasn't really shown any signs of having her babies. So I don't know. I will just have to let you know next week.
You still had some exciting cat news or cat happenings this week, though.
Yeah, that was traumatic. So my very first foster experiment was a couple months ago, and we fostered a mom and her 3 kittens. Not like she didn't give birth at our house. Morgan is now taking selfies with her dog and is very distracting.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
So
I just won't look at you.
Yeah.
I know. I'm jealous. My dog is not cuddly at all. Oh, that's another one. I took my dog to like an off-leash dog park yesterday, and so I counted that like as my swimming thing, as my like self-care, because it was like an hour long, if not more, like experiment where we like hiked down to the lake, and like it was frozen, so he couldn't go swimming, obviously, but like he had fun playing around on the ice, and like that was really nice. So I'm substituting that for my swimming thing. Oh, but yes. Okay. So first foster kitty, the door to our house like doesn't latch super well, and it didn't latch yesterday, and it was open, and we didn't know how long it was open for. And our very good dog did not run away, but original foster kitty, who is a foster fail because I'm keeping her name is Hazel. She ran away. She like ran outside of the house, and I was freaking terrified because it's like 30 degrees here. And I texted you like immediately, obviously, and was very, very nervous. But we like put her, I don't know. Is this an exciting story? We put my clothes outside and like the litter box outside and stuff like that. And she finally came back, but I was pissed. She's grounded. She's in so much trouble. I was so scared while she was gone.
Yeah. I would have been in hysterics if that was my cat. So I definitely understand.
No, she's in big trouble.
I'm so glad that she's home and she's safe.
Thank you. Me too. All right. Well, is there anything that we didn't get to that you want to talk about?
Nothing that can't wait for another episode.
Yeah, I think we got to brainstorm some stuff for it, but there's just like a surplus of things to talk about. There's a surplus of shitty men right now.
Yeah, there is. There's just so much. So many things making me angry. I did have a great quote today, and that's what I personally want to end with.
Sure.
Okay, so I had one great quote yesterday that was actually my quote that I just thought was really funny. I came home and I was like, oh my gosh, I made a funny joke today on Twitter because I was so proud of it. And, one of my main goals right now is just to take good care of my body and to learn to love myself better. And so I was like, your body is an office break room. Fill it with as many free snacks as possible. And I just really need the world to hear that wisdom because it's important. Eat all the free snacks.
Yes.
But no, my actual quote that I heard that I just want everybody to hear is so it was tweeted by Lauren Fleshman, who is somebody I tell everyone that they should follow because Lauren Fleshman is amazing. Mm-hmm. She's a total badass runner, athlete.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, she's awesome. But so what she tweeted was, behind every right and privilege extended to women was an army of angry women. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I want that tattooed on my body. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
We are proud of being those angry women.
Yeah, because we're angry about injustice, and it's okay to be angry about stuff like that.
Yeah, and I am so proud of all of the angry women who came before me.
Yeah. And Elizabeth Warren's the perfect example of that, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I think so much. So that's my departing wisdom is
okay. I love
be a proud, angry woman, and then fill your body with free snacks.
Perfect. Okay. And on that note, we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Shout out to Hope Dye for the podcast art, Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production. I'd like to thank Lauren Duca, Sarah Kensier, Andrea Chalupa, Brene Brown, Lizzo, AOC, Nancy Pelosi, Karen Kilgariff, Georgia Hardstark, Marie Newman, and my mom for their inspiration, and I'd like to thank you for listening.